So, welcome back to another episode of Voices in Health and Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Greenland, and today's guest brings both deep compassion and an extraordinary track record in the world of reproductive ethics and fertility. Mary Fusillo is a registered nurse, bioethics graduate, and the founder of The Donor Solution, a boutique egg donor agency that has helped over 1,100 families grow in the last 17 years. Hopefully that's correct. She recently launched a podcast of her own, Explanation, diving into some of the most critical and nuanced ethical questions in fertility today. Mary, I'm really thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us, especially with your own podcast just launching, and congratulations on Explanation. Where are you calling from today, just for the benefit of our listeners?
Houston, Texas.
Wonderful. So thank you for your time. What I'd like to just ask you, if you mind, is just tell us a little bit about your role and how the donor solution fits into the broader fertility landscape today.
Well, I got into the fertility field in 2019. In 1999. I'm like, oh, I'm aging myself. And I actually worked at a clinic where we were just starting to launch egg donation. Egg donation had been around about 14, 50 years. And the usual method was, seriously, they'd go down the hall and say to some tech or some nurse or some resident, hey, do you want to be a donor? And there wasn't really a coordinated effort. So when I got in the field, it was kind of a mismatch. And there was only a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 people at that time a year in the United States taking advantage of donor egg. So when I worked at this clinic, we said, well, there's got to be a better widget. So we decided to kind of use the sperm donor model. I could never understand why they weren't using that model originally, but so we started using the sperm donor model. So we would advertise for donors in like new college newspapers, the weekly giveaways that tell about the entertainment in the town. And we started out, and then we had a very in-depth profile. It was 26 pages long. We asked their favorite color, their favorite flower, their favorite memory of their mother, their father, what was their passion. And at the time, really, people weren't doing that. So we became very successful in that way, because we also had people, we showed photos. And before that, people were like, oh, this all has to be anonymous. And I understood the reason for anonymity, but people were kind of keeping it a secret, whatever. It morphed into a pretty big donor pool. I went to another clinic on the East Coast that had a humongous pool, kind of changed their way of doing it. Then I did consulting for a couple of years and told everybody else how to do their job, which was a great job. You have lunch for a living and you tell people how to do their job. But by 2007, I kind of wanted to go on my own. I was kind of tired of traveling. I had at the time 8-year-old twins. And so I started my own business, The Donor Solution. And the goal is to be a boutique agency where people could actually talk to somebody who wasn't trying to sell them a dream. We were trying to help them have a family, and a family has so many different components. So that's how we started. We morphed into Three Sister Surrogacy. We added that in 2012. And we have the fertility consultants, which is another business, which helps people that are just starting out that don't know which way to go. So over the last 18 years, we've built into 3 different companies. So that's kind of the story, how it started.
Amazing. So what does it look like from a client journey point of view? Somebody coming to see you, what does it look like, and how might it differ from other things in the niche, shall we say?
I'd say our goal is to understand our client and what their needs are. For instance, yesterday I got a request from one of the clinics that we work with. Hey, we have an intended mother who is looking for a specific ethnicity, and she wants this specific ethnicity in this specific area. Like, for instance, if it was in England, she only wants them to be from Manchester, and all the relatives are from Manchester. Okay, so it's that kind of thing. And they want to be taller than 5'7", and they want long legs, and they want them to have a musical ability and also athletic ability. And the list was endless. And so our goal is to help them face reality, and also to kind of guide them and go, you don't get the girl. Okay, the donor does not come out in the delivery room full grown. College is already paid for. No, you get a baby. All this person has done is given you some DNA. Yes, that's her DNA, but most of us, our DNA is all the same. It tells you how to make an ear or how to make a nose. It's not the person. And so we really come at it from the nurture standpoint. We're also a big believer in epigenetics. So that's what our goal is to counsel them that this is not the end of the world. You're still going to have your own baby.
So I guess a lot of expectation management from what you're saying.
Yeah. It's kind of like plastic surgery, it's
Yeah.
like, no, you're not going to look like we had a run on people who wanted donors that look like Whitney Houston, the singer for a while. And it was like, but you don't look like Whitney Houston. You don't sing like Whitney Houston. So it was it is managing expectations. And I think that people, when they get to the stage where a donor is the only way they can build their family, in the way that they want to be pregnant, they want to have a child with their partner. I think that, they want their clone. And so one of the ways that I've dealt with it over the years, I think, okay, so when you go to the West End or you go to Broadway and you're going to see a famous actress, okay, you're expecting Helen Mirren, in some play. And you sit down in your seat and you're all excited. And then they tell you tonight playing the role of blah, blah is somebody else, the understudy, because Helen Mirren is sick. And you're so disappointed. It's like, I came to see Helen Mirren. But by the end of the play, you've forgotten, because the goal of the actor is to make you forget who they are, but they are that character. And so that's my goal, is to go, you expect to have this baby that's you, but at the end of the day, you're going to completely, not that you're going to forget, but you are going to push it to the recesses of your mind that this baby had someone else help you have it.
Got it. I do like your Helen Mirren analogy. I think that's really, really apt. So what does a typical day look like for you right now? I don't know what your sort of specific roles in the business are. To talk us through a typical day, and I suspect there probably is no typical day, but just interested to hear how it works out.
It's weird because we've learned over the years that, and I have a staff that's been with me forever. I'm very, very fortunate. So everyone can do every job. But over the years, I've kind of morphed from being the Miss Everything. Anytime you have your own business, you do everything at the beginning, to now I usually focus on business development. And that sounds like, oh, business development. No, it means that we're always trying new and innovative ways to get people in to hear our story. I do believe we have one of the best ways to counsel people on using third-party parenting. And so I want more people to know that. It doesn't mean that they have to come use our services, but I'd like them to know more about what it means to use a third party to have a baby. And so, like, usually it's a bunch of emails, people looking for donors or surrogates. I talk to all intended parents on the surrogacy side because it's so much more fraught with, it's a 2-year relationship. So we're pretty picky, because if we're going to have a 2-year relationship with somebody, we got to really like them. Donor, on the other side, is a pretty quick thing. It's like in and out in 90 days. They select their donor. The donor makes sure that she can do it. We get with their clinic. She goes and has her testing. She gets a calendar and she goes forward. We do a lot of front end education with both our donors and our surrogates. So by the time they get to the clinic, they know it. Okay. Back in the old day, we called them PowerPoints, but now they're decks. But we give them this, basically a PowerPoint presentation. We've had a lot of discussion with them about how it works, so they're not blindsided and don't want to do it. I'd say that we also spend a lot of time putting out fires. Okay. The donor didn't show up at the clinic. The intended parents didn't pay their bill. The mother is freaking out. The worst is in the wintertime when you're flying donors across the country, because we work all over the United States, and the weather impacts them, and they have the eggs ready to be retrieved and they're stuck in Chicago and they need to be in New York City. So that's always kind of like, how do we get this person from A to B?
Got it. So I guess you've seen a lot over the years, but what major shifts are you noticing in fertility care or donor services more widely in the US?
Well, I started my business just to be local, because Houston is the fourth largest city. Actually, we're encroaching on Chicago to be number 3, and we had a lot of fertility services. And one of the things that you will find in the U.S. about fertility services is they follow the money, and Houston is a very prosperous town. There's the medical center, the largest in the world, and the oil industry or the energy industry. So a lot of highly educated people, they tend to wait longer to have babies. Hence, they need more fertility services. So that's kind of how, and then I realized I branched out to Dallas, then I branched out to Austin, and then I branched to LA because I had lived in LA and I'd like to go visit. And pretty soon we're kind of everywhere. I'd say our main focus is the Southwest, but we do probably 30% international. So we get a lot of patients from the UK because of the lack of, they don't have to wait. It's not anonymous. Somebody's not picking their donor. We have a lot of competition in Spain because Spain is quick and easy for some people. And we get a lot of people from Asia. So we're kind of worldwide. That's why the umbrella company over my businesses is called Family Solutions International. So we want people to know internationally they can come to us.
Got it. And how is the conversation around ethics evolving in this space, especially now? I know you're launching your own podcast, Explanation, and I know you have a degree in bioethics to have helped you navigate around all of the issues in this business. But what's happening?
Well, let's see. Let's just talk about today. So today, the current administration in the United States has decided that they no longer need the 5 people who were the record keepers of the information about IVF cycles. So I think in the UK, I forgot what it's called, but it's the human embryology, blah, 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 something or other. Well, they decided we don't need it. We don't need to track this anymore. And one of the big questions that they're trying to figure out with this data is, what works, where, so all the IVF clinics have to send in or had to send in their information to the CDC, Center for Disease Control, tracking it. We had this many starts. We had this many people make it to retrieval. This many people made embryos, blah, blah, blah. So you knew what each clinic statistics were for every age group and for every modality. Did they use donor sperm? Did they use ICSI? Did they have a donor? Did they use a surrogate? And so you had all this data and they could look at trends and they could see what was happening. And you could see fertility clinics, actually, they go up and down. I've been in it for 26 years and there's dry years and there's crazy years because of the way the population is. So when the whole cohort of people turn 35, 36, 37, all of a sudden there's a big bump. So when that age group is less, then you don't have as many clients. So all that data, according to today's administration ruling, is, well, we're not going to collect it anymore.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So can you imagine a whole discipline of science? Like, we're not going to worry about the data anymore.
Very worrying.
Yeah.
What's working well for you and your team at the moment at the donor solution?
Well, really what's working the best is private equity has hit the fertility world like a ton of bricks. And it's just like everything else, they bought up the vet practices. They've done this, they've done that. They took over, kidney dialysis. So what's happened in my field is there's a lot of us, and I've always been a medium-sized player. My goal was not to be the biggest. My goal was to be a mommy and have a great career. So I wanted to put the two together and also make the same thing for all my employees. I wanted them to have the same thing. And what's happened is they've been like Pac-Man. Okay, that shows how old I am, Pac-Man. And they've been eaten up by private equity who now wants to squeeze the money out. So I said I could either join them or I can morph into something else. And so I decided to morph into something else and stay what our true calling was, which I wanted to provide an ethical business. I wanted people to have transparency. I wanted them to feel nurtured and cared for in the third party space. And so that's what we're trying to do versus following the crowd into private equity and jumping off the dock.
Got it. I mean, are you able to compete with obviously private equity if they're buying up all these clinics and merging them into one thing with all the kind of cost efficiency savings? Are you?
There's not really savings. That's the myth of private equity. Yeah. And the second reason I went to graduate school in bioethics is because of this myth that private equity produces all these savings and that they have ethical things. No. Venture capital is a great way. Okay. Venture capital is I come in and I want to invest in you because I want all of us to make money. Private equity is I want to make money. I don't care about you. And the deal is, it's very much people get all caught up in it because they're like, oh my God, I'm 68 years old, says the doctor, and I'm ready to retire. And I have a couple million, but I really want a couple million more. And now they're going to pay me $3 million for my share of this company. I only have to stay for 3 more years. Well, how do they make that money? Okay. Well, what they do is they cut people. They do a lot of smoke and mirrors with the patients. There's a lot of add-ons. One of the big ethical issues I find in fertility is all these add-ons. It's like when you go to the hotel and you think it's 120 pounds a night, and then, oh, we have our 4% tax, and we have our service charge, and we have our tax. And at the end of the day, you're going, I'm paying 200 pounds for this hotel room. And so it's the same thing with fertility. We're going to add this, and this. I mean, it's pretty soon. I'm like, they're going to charge you for the Petri dish. And so, that would be good. Bring your own Petri dish. So I find that people we have had, and I can't believe this is happening in the United States right now, and everyone else is like freaking out about the economy and I don't want to jinx it, but we have had the best start of any year. And now we're in the 5th month since the recession of 2008, 2009, and COVID. Now, it's really weird. Why did we all of a sudden have great business when everyone else is crying? I think that in times of crisis, people know the only thing left is family, and they want a family.
Interesting. And where are you running into any areas of friction in the work that you do, whether it's, I don't know, operational, marketing, regulatory? What are the kind of pain points for you or the challenges?
I'd say, well, on an irritating kind of a mosquito level is the fact that the FDA lumps in sperm and egg donation with organ donation from a cadaver. And so they want all this testing done. So we went through this big thing with West Nile. We go right now, the big buzzword is TB, because they had a cluster of cases in Kansas City of this, the kind that's resistant to, you're the doctor, the one that's resistant to the drugs. Okay. So now,
MRSA, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. And so all of a sudden, everybody had to get tested for TB, and it can't be back in our day. They did the little time test on you. No. You have to have this blood test. And it's like, really? I mean, can we just look at it instead of lumping everybody in together? They went down this thing with, a couple years ago, there was this fly that was biting people in Brazil and causing all these horrible birth defects. So all of a sudden, nobody could be a donor that had been to Mexico, because Mexico had these certain things. So I think sometimes they go a little nuts. They go nuts on chlamydia. Okay. The bad news is chlamydia is awful, and we're glad that you got tested, but it doesn't affect your egg quality. And if you get treated, then you're good to go. And so they've kind of gone nuts about stuff like that. So that's like the irritating thing I hate about it. What I really hate about it right now, and what I think is just really ethically challenging, is how much it costs. Really? Your costs have doubled? I don't think so. You've gotten rid of all the licensed nurses. You've gotten rid of this. You've gotten rid of that. And now you're saying, oh, yes, we want to charge double what we did 3 or 4 years ago.
Are there any restrictions in the US around marketing and the way that you sort of put yourself out there? I mean, things like, digital visibility. Are there any things that you have to fight against in order to be seen and heard by people to put out your message from a regulatory point of view? No.
It's the wild, wild west. Seriously. Right now, if you go on, and you know how, like, when you're on social media, like, it follows you around. Like, if you put in the word shoes, all of a sudden you're inundated with all these shoes ads. So right now, different agencies are advertising that a surrogate can be compensated $100,000 plus for carrying the pregnancy. Okay. And it's kind of like, that's a lot of smoke and mirrors, because that's like, if everything, that's like basic compensation. That's if you need a cesarean section. That's like if you're carrying triplets. That's if you end up on bed rest for 2 months. That's if you end up at the hysterectomy. I mean, it's like everything all together maybe could add up to $100,000, but highly doubtful. And they're advertising that. And the deal is the big private equity, I'd say, agencies and the private equity IVF clinics, they have a lot of money because they're trying to completely corner the market. It's capitalism. I understand it. But they're spending in excess of 40 to 50 times a month more than we spend on advertising. So we're always like, I pedal every day. How do we get people? How do we do this? Not on the donor side as much. They're not interested in egg donation as much as they are surrogacy, because surrogacy pays big money to everybody. Okay. But egg donation doesn't. So I'm like, you know what? That's fine. We're going to stay over here in our corner with egg donation, doing what we've done for 18 years. And we just have surrogacy as kind of a side thing for people that we help that need that. So everybody else is like running, oh, I want to do surrogacy because it pays so much money.
Got it. So as a business owner, what metrics are you particularly interested in tracking to kind of see how you're doing and making sure that you're moving in the right direction? Are there any things that you particularly focus on, or anything you're particularly interested in trying to improve on?
I would say, because we use this really great customer management system, it's called Orchid. Shout out to them. What it does is it captures everything. So in the past, it was all literally spreadsheets. Okay. But we've had them for about 5 years. And so somebody applies to be a donor. Okay. And immediately the system sends her just directions, nice little emails and some information and a cute PowerPoint presentation and whatever. And then our coordinator follows up with her. She has to complete her steps. So she has to have a profile. She has to have her medical record. She has to have her driver's license. We do a background check on her, that kind of stuff. What I found is at the end of every month that I can look at the metrics, how many applied, how many qualified, because we rank them a 1 to a 5, how many finished the paperwork, how many had an interview, and how many actually went on our database. So if I'd say we get 100 to 150 applicants on the donor side a month, and 4 or 5 actually become donors. So it's helpful to say, let's tweak our advertising to add up, or let's go in a different direction. Everybody else is running over here and I'm going to run over there.
So where's next for Donor Solution? What do you want to sort of achieve in the next, say, 6 to 12 months? What's your vision for the business?
Well, number one, I want to, we're revamping the fertility consultants, and we're revamping it to offer more services for people that maybe don't need donor or don't need surrogacy, but they don't know where to go. Okay. So we get calls from a lot of people who are like, I don't know where to go. We've been trying for 6 months. My OBGYN says this, I'm ready to have a baby. So we're going to offer a complimentary consultation of 20 minutes. I'm not the doctor, but I just want to hear their story and then give them some ideas. And then they can actually buy a package of consulting. Like, in other words, I'll be their mentor for like 3 different calls to walk them through it. Sometimes I get people who go, I had somebody that was from El Paso, Texas, and there's not a lot of IVF. There's not a lot of choices, and you're pretty far away from everybody else. It's like 6 hours to Phoenix. It's like 6 hours to San Antonio. And so, I said, look, why don't you tell me your story? And then if you want to, you can share with me like your numbers, like your AMH, your FSH, what tests you've had. And I'm not a doctor. I'm just going to say my experience shows me, hey, because the results are on there. This is what I suggest. Have you talked to this person? Have you talked to that person? So the goal is it's somebody that's kind of a coach for them. And I hate the word coach, but an advisor. And then we're also going to offer injections because a lot of people get nervous about their surrogate or their egg donor taking the shots the right way. So we're going to have a group of registered nurses that will go to the home of the donor or the surrogate and give them their trigger shot or their progesterone shot. And so we just want to be all encompassing to help people navigate this without gouging them. That's my big thing.
Mary, thank you so much for spending the time this evening. It's been really interesting hearing about your business, the Donor Solution, and your ethos. Really like it. Really interesting hearing about the business and the direction that you're taking it. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.